Pretty exciting so far, eh? All right. This is Old Man Yells at Clouds for Blue Powder Monkeys. This is an interesting one. I'm going to be working on a program, souvenir book program for a convention called Norwescon. So there's going to be a mix of normal channel people potentially, and then a bunch of people from Norwescon checking out their program. So we'll see how this goes. I don't like wearing headphones, but I do need to listen to music while I'm doing stuff. So right now we are going through ELO, Alone in the Universe, which is one of their later albums, maybe mid or late 2000s as opposed to, 70s. So that's a thing. All right, let's see here. All right. So some of these stories that you'll hear today, I may or may not have told before, but I'm a graphic designer, an ex-semi-professional football player, man of the world. I'm going to be designing a souvenir program for a science fiction convention, and I guess we'll just kind of get into it. I'm doing this in Affinity. I was a big Adobe guy until late last year, and the combination, I'd been dissatisfied with them for a little while. They tried to raise my price. Then I tried to cancel, and then they tried to charge me like a $400 cancellation fee. And then people were like, oh, you just need to sign up again and then cancel it like 3 days late. There were all these weird little hoops or shenanigans you could pull to kind of get out of it with all of that. And I'm like, that's not good business practice. Like, I need to be able to call a place up and just be like, hey, I'm done at the end of the year. I had paid for the end of the year. There were 3 days left on the contract. They should have just been like, nope, sorry to hear that. Anything we can do, we can make you stay. I'm like, not have 10,000 AI improvements and no interface improvements for your actual program. And they would have been like, we're not going to do that. So anyway, that's my rant on there. So let's see. All right. So now I'm trying out this Affinity 3, which works in theory like Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign, though some people say not as well. Some people say, well, in my experience so far, because it's not like I just opened the program up for the first time right now. I've been doing a little experiment on it, and there are a lot of things it just does better. We'll see what happens on the back end when I try to export and color manage and all the rest of that shenanigans. So for now, though, this is what we're working with. All right, so I got to pull up. It's going to be a lot of me chatterboxing, occasionally doing things. All right. Again, Norwescon is a science fiction fantasy convention in the Pacific Northwest. Been around since the 70s. And guest of honor this year. What we got here? I'm punching up the website because I haven't memorized. Ursula Vernon for writer. Geneva or Geneva. I apologize because haven't heard your name actually pronounced. Bowers, artist guest of honor. Summer Ash, science guest of honor, Orbit, Spotlight publisher, and Dutch Bihari. Special guest of honor. I don't know what that means, but it's not important that I know what it means. All right, so the program, souvenir book program, multi-page documents, which are fun and lets me do typography-related shenanigans, which I really like doing. So I'm going to say Geneva for now until she corrects me, and hopefully she will correct me. She's the artist guest of honor, and that is what the souvenir program is going to be driven off of, color-wise and just sort of feel-wise and all the rest of that. She does, let's see, atmospheric and magic realism inspired by growing up in Appalachia, and I think she now lives in Chicago, according to her website. I have family in North Carolina, which isn't exactly Appalachia, but a little bit. There's definitely some sort of accent overlap. So hopefully, when I meet her at the convention, we'll get along just fine. I guess that will also depend on how the program goes. So her palette is secondary colors a lot. I'm hesitant to say whimsical because that sounds like nonsense. And I definitely don't want to gentrify things because in the past it would have been like, well, she has a feminine color palette. But it's like, you know what? Artists have all kinds of color palettes, and professional artists don't really fall into that kind of stuff. So the simplest way is, like I say, she does use a lot of yellows, which is a primary color, obviously, and reds, but she tends to excel in kind of the secondary palette of oranges and lavenders and purples, that kind of thing. This is a palette that you can see here that was pulled off of one of her paintings. I'm not sure if it's going to be the final palette that I use, but this is kind of a, as you can see here, worksheet. This is me messing around with stuff. So documents are created on grids. Grids are exactly what they sound like. You just set up areas to do work in, excuse me, and you set them up to be flexible, but you want a consistency throughout the document. So you want people to turn the page and not have to struggle necessarily to find where to read next, unless that's the point of it. But in something like this, it's not necessarily a great idea. And you want to set up grids that are flexible enough that you can do different layouts so it doesn't get stagnant, but all of those things have sort of this secret skeletal structure underneath them. So, Geneva, did I decide on Geneva or Geneva? I think Geneva. Geneva has comic book work, does a lot of comic book work. So that kind of started the ball rolling. And I can't do just straight up, or I don't want to do straight up sort of comic book panels because that's a little too on the nose. But I did set up a very, what looks like a simple kind of 9-box grid here. And her work is very organic. So that might fight against that in some ways, but I don't think it will. Based on the way the text will be laid out and that kind of thing. So I was picturing sort of the very generic kind of 9-page comic format and set up half pages with these little lines through here. And what that would allow me to do is, if you could imagine text in each of these little blocks, right? And we'll get to that in a second. That's sort of the initial idea. Flexibility. All right, well, now I could extend this one down here like this, and this could be text, and then a picture, and text, and whatever, right? So I have the ability to basically do large vertical stuff, which her work is. It's a weird thing to say, I guess, but her work is vertical. Some of that is layout stuff. I don't know if it's influenced by internet phone type stuff or whatever it is. She does have like landscape pieces, but a lot of her stuff, the figures, and we'll get to that as well when you see her work. The figures are vertical, and then there's trees, and there's sort of other things that have sort of a vertical kind of thing. Let me see if I can find. I don't have to type too far to find her website because I've gone to it like 28 times or whatever already. So let's see here. Oh, I might have actually, this might be easier. Just do this. Anyway, I could hand pick stuff that reinforces my point, which isn't fair to the point. I'm going to drag this over here. So this is her website. And so you can see tilted but vertical, vertical, vertical. That has some kind of roundness to it, although figures are, are always kind of vertical. There's some there. That's very vertical. This one, this one, this one. So anyway, it may not be the most awesome thing to just like randomly pull out, but, and then I had another, where's it at? Oh, here. These are not vertical. It's a series of sort of planet things that she did, and I'm definitely going to be integrating those in there. But as you can see, kind of proportional wise, they're going to fit very nicely in this type of setting, right? Not that I'm going to crowd them all together and 9 to a page or whatever. I haven't decided exactly what I'm doing with them yet. But anyway, so I'll be able to set those up this way. I have the hand tool on the front part of my Wacom pen, so when I squeeze it, I can move my pages around, and undo is back. That's just classic normal Wacom thing. But the space bar is really what this is, because that's the shortcut key for your grippy tool, usually your hand grippy tool. But on websites, that makes you scroll. So I hadn't activated it on this screen yet. So over on this other screen, I hit it, and this blur of her images, because the website was the last thing I hit, and now there's these fairy legs like poking down with little booties on them. And out of the corner of my eye, I was like, what's going on over there? Anyway, so then we can also go horizontal this way with the same grid. And we can get super tricky and mix stuff up and then get any kind of shape this way, right? And it won't read quite as sort of like stiff, because I could always round the corners off, which makes things a little more organic, or it's text. And it's not going to be fully justified, meaning it's not going to be aligned on this side. And this side is going to be what they call ragged right, which means the text kind of does this and is straight on this side. So like a block of ragged, I wouldn't put text in something this far across. Most likely, I might, but that's a pretty long line length. You want to keep stuff kind of columny this way. But even if I did, and the text was maybe raggedy like this way and then raggedy like that way, that would also read more organic in this layout. So that's the base of what's going on. Now we go over to the guts document. Guts is the name of the inside of a multi-page document. You get the cover and the guts. All right. So this is no color, so it looks, oh, and the other thing, I guess I was going to show you on this page to make it a little better. This is with when you turn the lines off, then you get stuff like that, right? That looks a little nicer without all the blue lines everywhere. So anyway, all right. So I have set up an 80-page document. We're not sure how long it's going to be yet, but it'll be in that ballpark. And this is the part where I kind of, I don't know, I wrestle with the idea of being like fully tutorial or not. But you can set up a document in Affinity by using this kind of interface, and you go through, you change your DPI to I don't know why it's like 264, I guess is okay for printing. You probably want that at 300, or if you're doing web stuff, you want it at like technically 72, but I'll usually do like 150 for like higher pixel devices and that kind of thing, whatever. You have a choice between artboards, which is having 2 or 3 boards, literally like you'd have a couple of pieces of paper on your desk beside each other. And that's good for if you're going to do like a series. Oh, actually, show you. I just did the badges. Is this one? Did I only, oh, it's a dummy. I didn't put like badges after the date on the file thing. So these are the badges that we're doing. So this is set up on artboards. So this board is completely different than this, though they both have the same margins, basically. which this one isn't going to show me for some reason. I've been having trouble with this file with margin stuff, but as you can see over here, margin. And that's basically the crop line. That's where the printer is going to chop the badge. And so that would be somewhere out in here. It's going to miss her hair by a little bit, although it will be a little tight on that way. Anyway, so that's the idea of artboards. Nice. With multi-page documents, some people call them books or magazines. You leave that turned off and you go with multi-page here, and then you can add. See, it won't let you actually do both. So you got to turn that off, and then you turn that on, and then you can plug in your number of pages and all the rest of that. You can pre-set up margins and bleed. Bleed is the image going over where the document's going to be cut. So books and magazines and that thing are done on much larger pieces of paper. It's not just an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It's like a giant sheet, and then they chop it on the edges. And so this is the edge that they will chop. This little line is the bleed. So you want your stuff to go fully out to there so that when it gets chopped, it doesn't leave like a weird white line or a weird little piece of color, because those blades, while they are pretty fucking precise, they're not like exact precise. So you kind of compensate by that. Also, excuse me, the larger sheets allow you some flexibility. I guess an 8.5 by 11 would too. Flexibility on your size. I am not a big fan of 8.5 by 11 like slightly trimmed. I usually use a 1/8 of an inch 0.125 of bleed to chop off. So I'm not a fan of chopping off an 1/8 of an inch on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. This document, as you can see, is 8 by 10, which to me is just a nicer ratio, I guess. So that's what happens when I turn off the margin lines. So we have is it this one? And actually, they're all kind of the same now, right? But what I can do is I can leave this like this so that they look like they have these weird little breaks in them, but that's kind of awkward. So what may happen, is you do that, right? And then do something like that. And then you're keeping the grid alive. Maybe there's a little piece of color in there. Maybe it goes all the way down, right? They're going to be pages that have full pages of text. And in that case, it may just be the 3 columns. And that's kind of the end of it type of thing. So anyway, I was messing around with that a little bit earlier. And now what I'm going to do is build master pages. A master page is a page that applies itself to all the other pages, so that you don't have to add background text, for example, or background color very specifically for this kind of stuff. Got a little achy shoulder. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do, let's see here. Until the text line. So yeah, they have 3 columns, 3 rows, no gutters. There we go. Can I see these? Oh, they're already set up. So yeah, these blue lines are my margins basically. And all that text was applied to these pages based on this text. But for now, all this is going to go away. There we go. So that's the raw page. So one of the first things I usually like to do is kind of figure out where page numbers are going to go. And then I have to figure out kind of like what color I want my pages, or whether I want to leave them white. And as mentioned before, we already have a color palette based on her painting Wish, which is the one on the cover. So, or the one on the badge. I'm using it for the cover as well, but you hadn't seen that, so that didn't make any sense. So it makes, there we go. All right. Let's pull that up. And then I'm going to sing along occasionally because that's what I do. Ooh, bow, bow. All my life. This is the gorgeous cover. And you just want to be around you. Which doesn't have, I might have deleted them out, although I don't know why I would have done that. It doesn't have like the yellow here. It's mostly the background. That's probably why I did it. I wanted to keep to that. So yeah, I think I will base one on the cover. So it just becomes play around time at this point. Twice. Two. Theoretically should be snapping to this bleed line, but I might not have that set up. Yep. Be around you. Is there like a little menu that should be? Sometimes stuff shows up on the other page. Again, this is kind of a learning process for me, so. A little tool pop up. Nope. Tool pop up. Nope. Oop, guess that's the most. Oh, there's my slider. See what happens if I do that. I don't know if this is more or less. Snapping is tolerance distance between the screen pixels between the items. Of course, snap will be made, so it should be. Let's go. Oh, pixels! Holy cow! Not no wonder some of this shit hasn't been working. All right. I also have old ass eyes now because I'm old. I could go out past this. Honestly, I could do this. I'm a little too, I don't want to say OCD because that's a real thing and people misuse it a lot. I'm a little particular about making sure everything's kind of exactly where it needs to be. But in this case, doesn't matter. It's not going to even print out past that. So just to make sure, boom, done. All right. Oh, shoot. That was not what I wanted. Deselect. There are definitely things that work differently than InDesign, and that's one of them. So that's a nice snap right there. Cool, cool, cool. Even me just before the those look almost the same, don't they? That's awesome. There's been several studies, as far as I know. I could be just making stuff up. No. Women on average, biologically, have the ability to see more color than men do because of the number of cones in their eyes, unless that was some weird 2000 myth that has since been disproven, like everything these days. But there was a woman that could see like 8 million colors or some ridiculous thing. I am not that fortunate. Remember. Oh, it was the same color because it had kept the same color from the other thing. That's right. So that was me being a dummy. That'll happen a lot. Now, anything that I know about color, for the most part, comes from training and repetition. That's kind of cool. They don't match each other, though, right? And I don't necessarily want to use another purple background. So let's do this. And you. Okay. It's definitely more. Ugh, I don't think that's spelled right either. Definitely more intuitive in a lot of ways than InDesign, and it might be that I just was so locked in my ways with InDesign. I don't know. But it's also because all the Adobe stuff was sort of older, super older programs that were being somewhat updated, but sometimes not. And, they'd grab some other program and try to kind of like, Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign weren't designed at the same time. And they weren't even necessarily designed by the same company. I think they bought InDesign, it used to be maybe PageMaker. So everything was kind of a mess, honestly, the three of them to work together. And this has what's a very modern thing of being tab based as opposed to program based. So all of those functionalities are within the same program. I don't have to switch back and forth. But they've also benefited from the decades of Adobe users and how they use things from an interface point of view. There's a free piece of 3D software called Blender, which is very good, very powerful, but it originally was designed by programmers, not UI people. And it's got a hideous learning curve, and it's gotten a little bit better. And, Blender defenders will be like, oh, you just need to go get these 12 fucking plugins and it'll work just fine. It's like, no, I shouldn't have to get 12 plugins. Like, I should just be able to do stuff. And this, I will say, I am able to just do stuff a lot of times. Ah, gosh, my shoulder's all jacked up. I like that better. Okay. The fun part about this is like I'll build these master pages and sort of apply them. I don't even know if they're going to work yet. Like, I don't even know. Like, until I start laying text down in them and actually designing pages, like, I have no idea. So hopefully I can go back and edit them. Talk to me. I don't like having to let go. So this is a drag, this alt drag function, but I have to let it go in order for the snapping to return. See, I can't just bring it down here in one motion and it won't snap. I have to let go of alt and then do that, which is a little weird to get used to, but whatever. Snap that. I'm gonna drive a couple of little nuts here as I decide whether I'm gonna do symmetry or not. Anyway, that's what will be a lot of this, is me just messing around. That can't work. Well, it could work, but it work that way. I'm going to leave this alone for a little while. I also tend to work in, oh, hit my standing desk button here and raised my desk up on accident. I also tend to work not haphazard, but I can drill into one thing and then kind of move on to a different thing or whatever. So normally what happens is you have a cover, and then this page 1 is going to be, it is going to be the first page. So you'll have a cover, and this will be the inside cover. The inside cover, 100% is going to be an ad. Probably from like Tor or somebody, or whoever the publisher I said was, Orion or whatever. So this needs to be kind of the front piece. This is the Worldcon program that I designed. And ads, inside front cover, front page is an ad. Second page was an ad. Because if you can make, hope you guys can see that actually. Because if you can make money selling ads, make money selling ads. Long, long way to go. Moving all my stuff around here so I can make sure. Yeah, you can see that. And then this was the front piece for Worldcon. Anyway, so in this case, I think I'm going to use a piece of art because I like her art. So there you go. This is one that I thought about for the cover, talked to her about it, and neither one of us, for various reasons, were like as excited about it as the other piece that we ended up using. But I do really like this piece. It's part of me that just wants to leave it just like bonk, done, no text. That's such a great piece. I really like it. Vertical again. But I like the verticals. I like all of that. I like the depth. I like the stark white draw in your eye. Like, milk. Ah, milk. All right, so now let's ruin it by throwing some text on there. That is tiny. What's going on there? Do that. Still a little, nope. Okay. I got to get used to labeling this stuff too. So I can keep my layers straight. Uh-oh. Turns out that Jeff Lynne and ELO don't have infinitely lasting albums. So now, I know you guys are all waited with bated breath. There we go. A playlist of various movie soundtracks because I've done a bunch of filmmaking, so short film stuff. So I'm very much into movie soundtracks. So that's good. Oh, excuse me. Coming down with, or got done with a little bit of a cold a while back. And Unsurprisingly, perhaps, I do smoke an occasional cigar. That work? All right. That's too big. Find a earlier Norwescon program, which hopefully I have around here somewhere. Pull the information off of it. Well, I was given one. Seem to have misplaced it. Did Worldcon recently, and I did a program for Oricon as well. So I've got all kinds of different programs lying around. All right, so it looks like the old ones I did just jumped right into the freaking table of contents. I think I want to do separately. I think we're going to have space enough. So yeah, I think I just want guests of honor. All right. Do with my pen. Can I keep my stuff together? Found it exactly where I left it. One thing I don't like, and it's actually kind of a deal, Illustrator, actually InDesign, I think, does it as well. The artboard to the side shows things, and I haven't figured out, I don't think Affinity does that. So I should be able to see the rest of this. InDesign definitely ends a certain space out, and Illustrator may as well. But using Illustrator, man, you have all your stuff kind of like put out onto the side, and you kind of drag it in, you know, when you want to use it or whatever. And it's super convenient. I feel like I'm going to sneeze in a little while. I'm giving you a little sneeze heads up. Now I'm doing a little tricky thing. So there we go. So this badge, all right, this badge is using kind of a stylized stacked logo in type because it's kind of a small space and all the rest of that. And Norwescon has the full logo has this interesting little thing where it tries to make one of the O's kind of represents the space and the other one the fantasy. So one is kind of round and planety sort of, and the other one is kind of like a little cog, or what I think is how it goes. Anyway, I'm leaning that direction in general, where it is kind of interesting if one of the O's, this kind of looks like a little gas giant type of thing to me. This doesn't really look like a cog, but it doesn't have to be like that literal. Oh, there's a weird gap there. I sent this off actually for them to print, and my eye is seeing like this is just a, like this is good, but that W probably needs to go like one touch there, but it's already kind of, if it's too late, let's see if I can. You're going to see like a weird live correction. This is a InDesign shortcut. No? Oh, they're individual letters. That's right. That was smart. Yeah, that's better. That's the kind of ridiculousness. Oh, I have to do this before I forget. Signage, artwork, website, style guides, bookmark badge. Here we go. Boom. Okay, cool. All right, anyway, so yeah, we got our little planet doodad. So I'm gonna just leave this here in case it comes up again instead of closing it this time. So the tricksy part of that was the regular type here is compacta standard, but the O's are Sophia Pro. Okay, cool. So looking at that, I can tell that it's going the direction that I want it to. So now, do this. Actually, this is probably a good time to try something out. And this is another thing that I'm talking about with Illustrator that was really nice, is I put this off to the side and I would remember it was there. Because I want to keep this one unedited. This one, I want to see if you can do curves, maybe? Expand stroke? Let's try that. Look it up. What I'm doing now basically is turning it from font to object. Contour is useless. Convert to curves. Okay, cool. Yeah. So now it basically just turned it into objects, which can be edited like artwork, basically. Yeah, look at that. Fucking awesome. All right, cool. So there's two reasons. Well, there's main one reason. There we go. Yeah, let's go. All right, so, ooh, ah, yeah. This one, yeah. I gotta turn snap it off. All right, there we go. And that's too thick, right? Not looking for verification on that. It's too thick. Sorry, I'm just making the executive decision here. It's too thick when it gets big. So let's do that. And that. And that's why you want to keep this one. If I could see it better, I would have just drug down. I would have deleted this and just drug another copy down instead of messing around with it. There we go. Isn't this fascinating? Oh, and I've turned off snapping. Like, why isn't that snapping? Well, because you turned off snapping. Seems pretty obvious. Ah. Let's do this. Okay, cool. There. Okay. Shift Control, I think is what I'm using for this. Yeah. Oh, but this is the point where I got to turn the snapping off again. It's getting late. Cool. Do you see that thing shift when I touch it? Is that with my shaky hands? Like, what's going on there? No, I guess it's like that. Very cool. Okay, cool. I feel like that's freaking shifting. Go this way. Huh. Optical illusion, maybe. Yeah, looks too much like a target. Just not good. Dang it. I cross-handed my keyboard down here and I keep hitting the window key instead of the control key. Opening up a bunch of nonsense. All right, what's he up to now? Well, he is looking for the cutters, which I think are in vector. And did I lock this art down? I did not. Let's do that. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Didn't do much. That didn't do much. Okay. I might be too tired to do this tonight. There we go. Just be able to layer them, I guess. No, I need to chop this thing in half somehow. Yeah, that's what I want. Hmm. Oh, seems weird. Nope, that didn't work. All right. Aha. Aha. Oh. All right. Nice. Okay, cool. Make join. So it is in. No. somebody will be watching this a week after. Who knows how to do it? It'd be like, just do this. Join curves. Oh, okay. Nope. Nope. All right, this looks like a good spot to stop. I know. So in the next video, I will have the solution and be further along on this, or I'll have the solution and just start kind of working on that. But either way, hope you enjoyed this first session with many more to come.